OK、お話こなすナスアップ8489歳の猫 VTuber ナスマツイともします。Nasu up, everybody. No, it's I didn't plug in my mic since last night when I unplugged it to fix the staticking. Yeah. Nasu up Archon, thanks for the 60 stream streak. Nasu up Eats a Duck, thanks for the birthday redeem. Nasu up Luca, thanks for the good wishes. You have a good day as well. Lure, Nasu up, thanks for dropping by. Technically was muted. Otherwise, you guys would have heard some like rank ass like plug-in sounds. Surfeni Nest up, thanks for dropping by. Okay, so I mean, I have to draw this. I have to finish coloring this like not safe for work thing. I don't know if I'm gonna finish tonight. But what can we do in the meantime? I mean, I could set shorts to auto scroll. And you can like kind of like watch shorts like as we can watch shorts as I draw. But my shorts feed is a little bit too like politics. Hey Yoshi, Nessa, thanks for dropping by. And I really hate most RuneScape content. Let's see. No Subway Surfer. You guys want to watch Subway Surfer? I mean, we could do some other stuff like what's this like? History of the 7 Greatest American Desserts by J.J. McClugg. McCocksucker. My favorite Canadian pop culture YouTuber who also has horrendous politics, but like luckily he doesn't talk too much about it on his channel. Okay, let me get everything going. Actually, you know what? Okay, so what I'm gonna do then is to let me disappear for a second. I usually watch shit on 2x speed, but I guess we can watch it on 1x speed. Or actually, I don't know. Do you guys want to do that? I really don't want to do that, actually. We'll see how slow it is, and if it's too slow, then I'll think about changing it to a different speed. But for now, I guess we'll videos. It's not that he doesn't say anything ever about politics, it's that just so happens his main focus is like pop culture. So like every once in a while he'll have like relevant pop culture topics about politics. Like for example, he'll talk about like, you know, the last 30 American presidents and their like cultural impact. But also he'll like, you can tell like he's kind of a chud. despite being a gay Vancouverite, it's like it's kind of crazy, but anyway, all right, here. Let me pull this up, and then we'll shrink this a little bit so that. Oh my god. Shrink this a little bit. I'm gonna do some proper React content today, boys, and then we'll just put that there, and then let me plug in my headphones, and we'll see how loud the shit gets. So yeah, today I'm drawing some lewdy stuff. 今日はちょっとエッチな絵を描いているんだから、結構少しだけ危ないから、なんか多分見せられなくて、みんな私と会話雑談するだけのはちょっとなんか退屈なと思って、このいろいろの動画を再生してリアクション配信をしよう。もしかして何かシェアしたいの動画があったらぜひコメントしてください。リンクシェアするかどうかわかんないけれど。Alright, so, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to watch anything else, also, just let me know here. I will, like, we can just have, like, a bunch of stuff playing, like, while I work. And then maybe I'll react to it a little bit. Actually, you know what, here, I'm gonna just, yeah, I think this is fine. It's not supposed to be the main focus of the stream, so we'll leave it as like a small window on top. And you know what? Let's get our RuneScape pedaling. Let's get our RuneScape pedaling in there as well. Yeah, hell yeah. Alright. Hold on, let me turn off my BGM. And then we're gonna turn down the... Okay.
And today
Okay, that's really loud.
I thought we would talk about the great American dessert canon. Weird and decadent dessert treats first started to become a major part of American culture in the late 19th century, reflecting many of the technological innovations being made at the time, which I find tends to be the backstory of like half of American culture. But in any case, it is now almost impossible to imagine American life without a vast array of eccentric sweet treats. Now, as longtime viewers know, when it comes to compiling lists of iconic American cultural things, I like to get my inspiration from little toys and games, so I don't bias things too much in the direction of my own interests. And so, for the purposes of this video, the great American dessert canon will be established by this Mighty Jack set of collectable cat figurines.
This guy likes to make like a lot of like these kind of like, you know, cultural analysis videos.
So we got
it's
donut
pretty cool.
cat,
He like researches
cat,
like
Jello cat,
different like
cupcake
histories
cat,
of like
s'mores
foods,
cat,
cultural
and
items. Like he did a
cotton
Halloween
cat.
candy
All
one,
right,
just to give you an idea.
Dig in. At its core, a donut is just some dough that's been fried in oil. And this is a pretty basic idea that independently occurred to an endless array of cultures and countries, resulting in a vast array of distinct donut-like foods found all over the world.
Yo, this is what is it? This is the Chinese youtiao. Like it's really weird because to include this as part of like the donuts section, because this isn't really like sweet. It's supposed to be like fried bread, basically. You eat it like a breakfast item, but not as like a sweet. It's supposed to be savory.
The world. Donut is the term that emerged sometime in the late 18th century to describe a distinctly American style of fried bread. According to this book, Glazed America, A History of the Donut by Paul R. Mullins, American donuts first became popular in New England, where they emerged from the fried bread traditions of European settlers in the region. The Dutch are usually given the credit for being the most influential because they ate a type of fried bread with sugar known as oily koek or oil cake that was quite popular with New Englanders of
fried dough's fried dough. I mean,
but it was also
yeah,
the case that there were other popular European
I think
fried
the
bread
thing,
traditions at that time
the dough
as
that's
well,
being fried
particularly
is important
those
too.
of the French and Germans,
Hey,
meaning
Blackaroni
that the
Nessa,
snack
thanks for
that
dropping by.
became known as the American donut is a classic melting pot story where out of many came one. Certainly once donuts started to catch on outside of New England in the 19th century, they migrated further away from any identifiably European roots and evolved into a uniquely American thing. The weird name certainly helped contribute to that sense of distinctiveness. We still don't know what donut was originally supposed to mean.
There you go. We
Theories
still have no idea
posit
what a
that
donut's
it
supposed to
may
mean.
have described the fact that early American fried bread treats sometimes looked like nuts or possibly contained nuts. Likewise, reflecting their diverse origins, early American donuts would come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, depending on who was making them, including loaves, squares, and twists. Even now, your typical American bakery will usually offer a fair bit of variety as far as that goes. But it was, of course, the ring shape that would eventually emerge supreme. The main theory behind this is just that ring-shaped donuts are faster and easier to cook, avoiding that mushy middle effect that undercooked baked goods tend to have. This is the same reason why bagels are ring-shaped and why there are a lot of ring-shaped cookies. Fast turnover time became especially necessary once donuts started to transition into a common restaurant or diner food in the 20th century, and thus something that had to be capable of being quickly churned out in large quantities. The donut history books that I read called the 1920s the era in which American donuts, as we know them today, went mainstream, and World War I is often given credit. Because donuts had proven so fast and easy to make,
you would think that the donuts were a more recent thing. I didn't realize they went back like a literal 100 years.
And by the time they returned home, they had developed a real taste for them. That whimsical donut making machine with the conveyor belt that I'm sure you have seen before.
Like the fact that like burgers are like a hamburger as we know it from fast food is like something from the 1950s, like makes me think that like donuts should also be that,
were now so utterly effortless to make, they were destined to be sold everywhere. In a testament to how far this once regional New England treat had now stretched, America's first ever donut chain, Krispy Kreme, which was founded in 1937, opened its
I guess
first
it's right in the
store
logo. I had no idea.
Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The big economic boom after World War II saw various entrepreneurs across this continent follow suit with donut chains of their own, including the Massachusetts-based Dunkin' Donuts and Mr. Donut in 1950 and 1955, and of course,
Mr. Donut being a Japanese brand now because they got fucking edged out of America by Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme.
Of course, Ontario's own Tim Hortons in 1964. From the earliest days, donuts had been primarily understood as a breakfast food, a pastry in the same category of muffins and danishes and other things you might eat with coffee or eggs. As our culture has become more hurried and efficient, they have emerged as a leading symbol of food convenience as well, a sort of low-effort thing that office workers stereotypically eat either on their morning commute or from a big box in the meeting or break room. On the opposite end, however, as our society has grown richer, donuts have also become a leading symbol of food extravagance, with many major American cities now having hipster shops selling donuts with all sorts of over-the-top flavors and decorations.
Those donut shops mostly suck ass, by the way.
PB&J donut that's really for containing so many
New York City's
multitudes,
donut
I might
shops
even
suck
say
fucking
that
dick,
donuts now
in my opinion.
outrank burgers as the most American of foods,
and they're
in terms
really
of their
expensive
ability
too.
to personify everything that adjective entails.
It's like a goddamn like $8 per donut. It's like,
the term
all right,
cheesecake is very old, dating back to at least the 15th century, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, making it easily the oldest dessert we'll be talking about today. According to this History of Milk by Anne Mendelsohn, the name was originally used pretty broadly, referring to a family of tarts featuring fresh curds baked in pastry with various combinations of sugar, spices, eggs, and butter. The various European countries all invented different cheesecakes of this sort, with those super eggy Portuguese ones, which date back to the 17th century, being a particularly famous example. The Germans,
the egg
had
tarts
their
are
own
actually a
version,
really famous
a
Chinese
creamy
dish
tart
too,
made mostly of
but
butter,
it's
known simply
absolutely
as
stolen from Portugal.
Käsekuchen, or cheesecake. When German immigrants started coming to New York in large numbers in the late 19th century, they in turn did what immigrants often did in those days, which was attempt to replicate recipes from the old country using distinctive American ingredients. So they would make käsekuchen,
Hey Shonen, Nasu,
but
what's going on?
instead
I'm
of
drawing
using
like
butter
mood
as the
stuff, so I
basis
can't
for
show it
their
on stream.
batter,
So we're just
they would
making
make
like a
better
react stream
batter
while I do work.
using a popular newfangled American product known as cream cheese. According to the
I love cream
Encyclopedia
cheese. I
of
fucking
Greater
oh my god, I
Philadelphia,
love cream cheese.
in the 19th century, the farm wives of Pennsylvania
Donuts in general are
developed a
atrocious.
distinct style of
If
soft
bought from a mass
cheese
produced.
that they would
Really,
bring
I
to
actually
Philly to
think the
sell
peak
once
form of a donut
refrigerated rail
is
cars were
Dunkin'
invented.
Donuts.
These uniquely
Dunkin' Donuts
creamy
like
Philadelphia
glaze
cheeses
is
were
like
exported to nearby
my favorite
New
type of
York,
donut.
where they earned a reputation
Like by
as
far,
an
it's like
upscale
Dunkin' Donuts
indulgence.
glaze,
The
Power Gap,
popular
the rest of
brand
Dunkin' Donuts,
Philadelphia
extra
cream
Power
cheese
Gap,
was
like Mr.
actually
Donut,
created by
and
a
then
New
like
Yorker in 1880,
pretty much Power Gap
seeking
into
to
the inedible
capitalize
section
on
of
this
like the
fame.
rest of the
And
donuts.
thus, thanks to the influence of the Germans and the Pennsylvanians, we can see where this concept of a New York-style cheesecake originally came from. But as decadent as those cakes were, people couldn't help but wonder, is there a way we can make them even more decadent? The answer, of course, was yes. Around the 1920s or so, cooks began swapping out the cake's traditional boring flour dough crust for a sweeter, crunchier crust made from Dr. Graham's Miracle
That's
Crackers.
the
As we
cheesecake
all know
shit I
from
like.
watching my pal Knowing Better's fantastic video on the topic, the Reverend Sylvester Graham was one of America's great Victorian
Think you prefer
crackpots,
Krispy Kreme?
a
I can't. I don't really
vegetarian
understand.
and anti-sex
Krispy
Puritan
Kreme.
who believed that sinful,
I just like. I feel like
self-destructive lifestyles
I
could be
feel like
cured
Dunkin'
with
Donuts
a
is like a
bland
right balance,
diet
but
of
Krispy
boring
Kreme feels
food.
like a
He
lot
inspired
heavier.
a legion of dedicated followers known as the Grahamites, who invented a bunch of recipes for boring foods that they named after him, including graham crackers in 1829. Even non-Grahamites loved the texture of these thick and chewy cookies made from coarse whole wheat flour and bran, and in the latter half of the 19th century, all of the big new industrial cookie corporations started mass producing them for grocery stores. And then in the 1920s, so-called honey-made style graham
Grew up on
crackers,
German
which
donuts.
were full of sugar, became all the rage, which was
I'm a
kind
fan
of
of
crapping
vegetable
all over
oil
Dr.
donuts with the
Graham's
weird
original
grainy
vision
texture
for
of the bread.
healthy eating, but he was long dead by then, so nobody cared.
Do,
Now, giving cheesecakes
does
a
Krispy
graham
Kreme also
cracker
do
crust was merely one of many ingenious
vegetable oil?
ways that this newly sugared up food was being integrated into the American dessert canon during the 1920s, which brings us to our next treat.
S'mores. I don't like
Plant with white
marshmallows.
flowers
I don't
that
really
grows
get
in
them.
swampy areas and is known as Joseph's staff. Since ancient times, it has been believed to have miraculous curative properties with its various parts used in all sorts of natural medicines. The
Oh, I didn't know it was
sap
from a
of its
plant. I thought it was
roots
like-
in
I
particular
thought it was
is
like,
quite thick and gooey. And was
I thought it
often
was like
used to
some
make
like
healing
weird like pig
potions of various
byproduct.
sorts. The gum of Joseph's staff, they called it.
Yeah, I
Or,
thought
to
it was
use the
like
plant's
I
more
thought it was like
casual
this
name,
weird
the
like
gum of the
gelatin
marshmallow.
byproduct.
In the late 18th century, chemists in France mixed marshmallow goo with
Don't
egg
Krispy
whites
Kreme, yeah,
and
no
sugar
idea.
to make a gummy that you could suck on to cure congestion and sore throats. And as was often the case with these sorts of things, the marshmallow gummies tasted so good that pretty soon people just wanted to eat them for fun and didn't care about all the medical BS. But extracting the sap from the marshmallow roots was incredibly time-consuming. A 12-hour process, according to this guy's marshmallow blog. And this provoked a lot of interest in making synthetic marshmallows instead, which didn't prove to be that hard to do, since basically nothing that made the marshmallow gummies fun and delicious required anything from the marshmallow plant itself. All you really needed was sugar, egg whites, and some sort of thickening agent. In the 19th century, they swapped out marshmallow sap with the sap of some other plant. Today, we mostly use animal gelatin, which we
I was not like
marshmallows,
wrong
as we know them today, started to be mass-produced once the Industrial Revolution happened, and they became a much-beloved candy with kids in particular. In Victorian times, it became popular to take a box of marshmallows with you on camping trips, and roasting them on an open fire became a much sentimentalized tradition as bucolic outdoor family activities became a mainstay of middle-class life. Middle-class children, in particular, loved to go on outdoor adventures, and the rise of camping clubs for young girls and boys reached its apotheosis.
I think they are now, or like not like hooves, but like, you know, like any sort of like animal like
in 1927, a new organization known as the
I think it's mostly like bones
released
or some
a
shit.
guidebook full of fun activities for scout leaders to do with their troops, including a bunch of creative low-effort snacks that could be made out in the wilderness. This included such memorable treats as little pig potatoes, rum-tum ditties, and of course, s'mores. S'mores were a decadent dessert made from marshmallows, chunks of a plain
I did know
s'more
was a short for s'mores.
Toast two marshmallows over the coals to a crisp, gooey state, and then put them inside a graham cracker chocolate bar sandwich. You eat one, you want some more.
That shit, like, I don't like s'mores because it's like,
why these things took off.
I don't like s'mores because, like, I don't know. I just don't think like
of gooey treats,
it goes well together. I don't know. Gelatin.
The name Jello is a play on jelly and gelatin, two words which derive from the Latin word gele.
I've seen people making like a big like crust of like toasted marshmallow and like pulling it off. It's like pulling off the foreskin of the marshmallow
into a kind of stiff goo after a while. And this is the result of proteins in the soup known as collagen starting to bind together. In living creatures, collagen is what flexible rubbery body parts are made of, including skin, cartilage, tendons, and membranes. Bones are about 30% collagen, and this is what prevents us from snapping in half every time someone kicks us in the shins. When these sorts of body parts of animals are boiled in acid, it is possible to extract the collagen and dry it into a powder known as gelatin. Here is some gelatin powder right here, extracted from boiled pig parts. This sort of powder can then be reboiled and re-solidified and turned into all sorts of useful things, including glue, capsules for fast-acting pain relief medication, a thickening agent for marshmallows, and of course, delightful, wiggly dessert treats. People have been making rubbery, gelatin-based desserts by boiling animal parts for hundreds of years, but it was the sort of laborious task that only the fanciest chefs could pull off, which is why, for a long time, having a big, beautiful mound of shimmering gelatin on the banquet table was a real symbol of decadent luxury. That all changed in the 19th century, however, when the fabulous Industrial Revolution made it possible to extract.
I always thought it was weird that gelatin or jellies were like so prevalent as like fancy food. And like
upstate New York, orator F.
Not that good. I mean, like I enjoy good fruit jelly, but like just like seeing like, you know, like the meat jellies from like the 50s and 60s is just kind of like, why? What were you fucking thinking?
That were becoming all the rage at the time, but they were looking for the next big thing. So in 1899, Papa Woodward bought a recipe for making powdered gelatin from a glue maker and began using his factory to churn it out by the barrelful. The powder was then packaged and sold in little 3-ounce cardboard boxes, basically identical to the ones you can still buy at the supermarket today. And this Jell-O mix became extraordinarily popular basically overnight. By the dawn of the 20th century, sugar and fruit had become much more common and affordable for middle-class people. And as a result, Americans were increasingly obsessed with eating and making all sorts of fun dessert treats. In this climate, Jell-O was seen as a sort of miracle product because you could make basically any sort of dessert with it, using it as the base. You just mix the powder into some boiling water, throw in some other stuff, and let it sit for a while. And after a few hours, it will have congealed into some sort of delightful gelatinous offering. Adding fruit juice, of course, would make beautiful jewel-like fruit Jell-O, but you could also mix it with milk and ice to make ice cream, or you could stick in some nuts and applesauce and make a nice cobbler or pie filling, or put in some eggs and vanilla and make a nice creamy custard, or throw in some boiled rice and raisins
using jelly powder to make like other shit is so good though.
You could even toss in some vinegar, pickles,
like
lemon
pies using like the lemon jello powder is actually fucking awesome. Or lemon pudding powder or whatever.
Staged an aggressive marketing campaign to pitch their miracle product, with stores giving away cute little booklets informing the housewives of America how they could use Jell-O powder to create all sorts of decadent treats for their families with minimal effort. Even if you can't cook, you can make a Jell-O dessert. Now, early 20th century Americans spent a lot of time wringing their hands about whether the United States had a truly distinctive culture, or whether it was just a multicultural hodgepodge of influences from other places. The popularity of Jell-O was thus very exciting to the people who wanted to see more uniquely American things. In short order, it was proclaimed America's dessert and heavily propagandized as a very special part of American culture. So much so, in fact,
they were doing that America shtick all the way
back. It was
back
tradition
then.
at Ellis Island, the famous welcoming port for immigrants to New York City, to give newcomers some Jell-O when they arrived as part of their introduction to American life. Jell-O enjoyed a second big upswing in patriotic pride after World War II, when, in the triumphant spirit of the times, it was rediscovered as a symbol of American modernity, creativity, and middle-class domestic bliss within the heteronormative family unit. As Americans, in turn, rebelled against 50s era conformity in subsequent decades, Jell-O then became a symbol of a certain kind of old-fashioned squareness. Whenever I tell people that Mormons are very fond of Jell-O, which is true, the main reaction I get is, yeah, that figures.
That's the worst picture. That's the worst fucking video example of cotton candy I've ever seen. What is this? If I didn't say cotton candy at the top, it would have looked. I would have thought it was like a wad of gum or some shit. Like, the hell is this?
Cotton candy basically just exists because two men from Nashville invented a contraption to make it. In 1903, Monsieurs William J. Morrison and John C. Wharton obtained a patent for a device to make a candy in the form of fine filaments. The following year,
it looks like the ones that they like put into bags, but like not like the ones that like look good, but like the ones where you get the bag and then like you accidentally squish it. And it's just like, oh, well, you know, it's still like edible, and it gets away from like the cotton candy like texture. It becomes like a very like thin like cake like texture almost, because you like compressed it together.
They debuted it at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. World's Fairs having a big influence on American culture in those days. The men called this stuff that they were making fairy floss, and it was a big hit with fair goers and has been a carnival mainstay ever since. 120 years later, we are still basically making it the exact same way, using the exact same technology and for the exact same purpose, giving children something to brainlessly munch on as they stare at prize-winning hogs. I was curious as to why cotton candy is usually pink, but I couldn't find any good explanation beyond it just looks pretty that way.
I mean, it's called fairy floss, right? So like clearly it was like
According
it was
to
like
the UN,
a hearkening
the United
to like
States is the
like
biggest
pink
banana consuming country on
fairies.
Earth, importing about 4 million tons of bananas a year, or about 22% of the global banana supply. They have to be imported because bananas are, of course, not indigenous to the United States. They grow mostly in Latin America. The U.S. imports
a
close
banana
to half
is an
of its
American
bananas
dessert?
from just a single country, Guatemala, with the rest mainly coming from Ecuador, Honduras, and Costa Rica. Bananas first started to be imported to the U.S. in the late 1800s and were an instant hit, becoming a major part of the fruit-eating boom of that era. This insatiable American appetite for bananas would unfortunately wind up having serious economic and political consequences for Latin America throughout the 20th century, and is often blamed for making these countries into
serious
dysfunctional
consequences, like we fucking killed them
of the
so we
American
can use their
Empire.
land for bananas.
This is where the term banana republic comes from. In any case, in the early 20th century, the bananas started to be gleefully incorporated into all of the popular American desserts on the rise at the time, including ice cream, a dessert I made a whole other video about. According to this great book on the history of ice cream, there are two rival American cities that both take credit for inventing the banana split. Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which claims it was invented in their city by a guy named David Strickler in 1904, and Wilmington, Ohio, which says it was actually invented by a guy named Ernest Hazard in
It's like not that unique of a thing.
Their
it's like
argument is that even
ice cream
David
and bananas
Strickler was the first to sell ice cream sundaes with horizontally sliced bananas, it was Ernest Hazard who was the first to add the now iconic toppings of chocolate, strawberry, and pineapple sauce. Those sauces.
Wait, pineapple sauce is the I thought it was like I didn't know that was like the shit of a I didn't know that was a shit of the of a banana split. I thought it was like chocolate. I thought it was like chocolate, strawberry, and like vanilla, like something, or like banana something. I didn't fucking know this was supposed to be pineapple. Jesus. Yeah. Back in the days, like now, or like there was what is it? Was it Cavendish that died out, or is that the one that we eat nowadays? Cause like. The way we make the way we make them is like it's just cloning the same plant over and over again. And basically one fungal, like normally with different types of like individual species, you have like, you know, like genetic variants to the point where like one, like even a devastating like blight would only take out a certain percentage of them. But because it's all clones, like literally all of them die the same way. Cavendish is a new one. Okay. And I heard the Cavendish is also like dying, or is also getting blighted now too. So I wonder what the new banana is gonna taste like. Apparently there's like a couple of varieties of banana, but like it's all like very like niche specialty stuff right now. I mean, honestly, the Cavendish is like not that good. Like, if bananas tasted like juicy fruit, which is what is like the old wives' tale, it keeps getting peddled around. Like the old banana had like a much more sweeter, brighter flavor, and it tasted like juicy fruit, the gum. Like I'd be a little bit more down for bananas. Yeah. I've never tried any other type of banana though, because like. I don't really like bananas in the first place, so like seeking out different varieties of bananas, like is not something I will ever do. And also, it's like not like, what is it like? It's not like prevalent enough. Like, you know, like unlike apples, where it's kind of like you go to a grocery store and they're gonna give you like 10 different varieties of apples because it's just like, oh well, like. The farm that we got the apples from just decided to make these. And it's like, yeah, you can try them because it's like convenient stuff, but like you're never gonna find different banana varieties. Other than like, unless you count like plantains, but I think plantains are gross.
Sauce. Those sauces are themselves pretty iconic of the time, since strawberries were another fruit that had exploded massively in popularity as a result of the fruit boom of the late 19th century. Something I discussed in my award-winning video on American fruit culture. The story of the rise of the pineapple in American food culture, however, was even more dramatic. Pineapples are indigenous to South America and were spread to the Caribbean by the Native Americans, which is where they were first encountered by Spanish and Portuguese explorers. The Europeans thought these things were the most delicious fruits they had ever eaten, and in time they started introducing them to
South American.
other
I thought they were like
tropical parts
somewhere
of the
from
world
Polynesia.
Where they held sway, including
like
Hawaii, sometime around the dawn of the 19th century. 100 years later, it was a guy from Boston named James Drummond Dole who decided that Hawaii should become a pineapple superpower, and through his establishment of massive pineapple plantations and canneries across the islands, Hawaii underwent a huge pineapple boom in the early 20th century, becoming the world's largest producer. And much of what was being produced wound up being exported to the United States, which of course had recently annexed the islands. And just like the European elites of previous centuries, Middle-class Americans couldn't get enough of this sweet, exotic fruit. They stuck it in absolutely everything, including cakes, booze, glazed hams, and ice cream sundaes. The Hawaiian pineapple industry entered a phase of massive decline in the last few decades of the 20th century. And now, most of the fresh and canned pineapple that Americans buy to make pina coladas and banana split sauce come almost entirely from Costa Rica. Real monument to globalization, the banana split. Better hope there's no tariffs on Latin American imports, or these things could get pretty pricey. And lastly, we have the modest cupcake. Though obviously it's been possible to make tiny little cakes since forever, the modern cupcake is a product of the increasing industrialized mass production of food that first arose during the
there were so many cupcakes. I got so many cupcakes as a kid
in particular,
because it's like just a very
Nathaniel
common like
Waterman's
thing to give kids.
1859 invention of
like
a
for
cast
celebrating
iron pan
holidays,
with
birthdays,
multiple
and shit.
compartments allowed for the baking of what
never
were initially known as mini
More of a brownie
gem
guy.
cakes in a fast and efficient way. These sorts of pans seem pretty basic now, but at the time they were quite revolutionary in allowing bakers and then factories to make big batches of little identical cakes or muffins, all cooked evenly at the same time, which could then be boxed off and sold to grocery stores and diners and the like. One of the theories as to why these were initially called gem cakes was because it was fun to make the little cakes all fancy and decorated with icing and sprinkles and all of that. This would have been a time at which things like colored icing and small candies were also becoming more common and mass-produced, which made
when we hit the ad break, I'm gonna take a shower.
Fancy cakes, which was
I didn't get a chance
the
to take a
exclusive
shower today
domain
because
of
I had
wealthy
to
big
stay
shots at
extra
banquet
time
dinners.
after work.
Now the
And
sort
then
of
I got
thing
back
that
and
any
did my
random
dailies, and
middle-class
it's like,
person
oh shit,
could
it's
buy
already
as
time
a
for stream.
snack on his way to work. Much like donuts, cupcakes have enjoyed something of a renaissance in recent years, as the ancient impulse towards using desserts as an opportunity to flaunt luxury and extravagance finds expression with a new generation of pastry entrepreneurs. And that is the big 7 American desserts for you, at least according to this little Bubba. Any desserts you would add to the canon? And any ideas for a new American culture canon video in general? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week.
Okay, that was JJ McCullough. He doesn't. I don't really need any. I don't think I really need to shout him out, considering he mogs the fuck out of me in subs. But here you go. I'm not really platforming him in any real way. Is there a new tasting history? Oh, there is a new tasting history. Hold on, let me, not this one. Fuck, I clicked on the wrong one.
Ever since I was a little kid... This is the notorious D ration from World War II, a chocolate bar that was given to U.S. soldiers as an emergency ration. A chocolate bar that many claim was purposefully designed to taste terrible. But just exactly how terrible did this chocolate bar taste? Well, I am going to find out for myself by recreating the U.S. Army Field Ration D using the original formula. So thank you to Bombas for sponsoring this video as I make the D-Bar. This time on Tasting History.
D-Bar. Oh my god, I never watched these videos at one time speed. It takes so goddamn long. Holy fuck.
Ever since I made my first World War II video here on the channel almost 4 years ago, I have wanted to try the D-Ration. It is the stuff of legend. But before it was actually known as the D-Ration, it was called the Logan Bar, and it was named after the man who spearheaded its creation, Captain, later Colonel, Paul Logan. He had been inspired by a previous ration from 1932 meant for the cavalry that was a 12-ounce chocolate bar made of just pretty much chocolate, sugar, and peanut butter. Absolutely delicious, but a complete failure as an emergency ration. First, the high fat and salt content made it so that whoever ate it became incredibly thirsty, and it went rancid in just a couple months. So with this failure in mind, Captain Logan, while working for the Army's subsistence school in Chicago, began to develop a new chocolate ration that would be portable, packed with calories, have a long shelf life, and wouldn't melt in the soldiers' pockets. Eventually, he turned to the chief chemist at the Hershey Company to help. His name was Samuel F. Hinkle, and he was the genius behind Hershey's syrup and the Mr. Good bar. And according to the Hershey archive, at that very first meeting, Logan laid out all the specifications that he needed for this bar, and he threw one more thing in. Since it was supposed to be an emergency ration, he didn't want the soldiers eating it unless it was an actual emergency. And so he said that it should taste a little better than a boiled potato. And so following those marching orders,
boiled potatoes
Samuel
are really
Hinkle
fucking good
developed
though. Like,
this recipe,
I would
which
eat just a
included
plain boiled
chocolate,
potato.
plain, sucrose, sugar, milk, dry, powdered, skimmed, extra added cocoa fat, raw oat flour, vanillin, which is the vanilla flavor, and later on they added thiamine hydrochloride, which is vitamin B1. So since this recipe gives very specific quantities, I'm going to give it all in grams so you can weigh it out. So this will make 4 4-ounce bars. What you'll need is 160 grams of unsweetened chocolate, 160 grams of sugar, 70 grams of powdered non-fat milk, 30 grams cacao fat, also known as cocoa butter. You want to make sure to get food grade because a lot of the stuff that you can buy is meant for makeup. Then 20 grams of oat flour. This is the key ingredient that makes it so this bar will not melt. A half gram of vanillin. This is vanillin powder. This is the kind of stuff that probably would have been used. It's kind of expensive, kind of hard to find, so you can just use some vanilla if you want. And then about 1.8 grams or 1 capsule of thiamine hydrochloride. Honestly, you do not need to add that. It's not going to really affect the flavor at all, and it was only added a little bit later on to prevent people from getting beriberi, which is a tropical condition that leads to a bunch of things, including hurt feet. It makes your feet hurt when you walk. What does not make your feet hurt when you walk, in fact, makes them quite comfortable, are the socks and sandals that I got from today's sponsor, Bombas. So I have gushed over the wonderful socks that I wear from Bombas, but today I am gushing over the wonderful sandals that I get from them. Perfect for summer are the Friday sandals. They're light and cushy without being too soft, and they support my feet so I can stand for hours at a time in this kitchen as I film. They also have great traction on the bottom so I can wear them outside as I spend the entire summer doing everything I possibly can to stay out of the sun. But Bombas doesn't just focus on feet because they also have underwear. They also have t-shirts. And when you buy something from Bombas, you are doing some real good because for every item purchased, they donate an item to a shelter. And to date, they have donated over 200 million items, socks, t-shirts, and underwear to those in need. So whether it's socks, underwear, t-shirts, or if you just want to upgrade your shoe game, then do so with Bombas. And right now, new customers can get 20% off of their first purchase when they use my link in the description, bombas.com/tastinghistory, and use my code tastinghistory20 at checkout. That is bombas.com/tastinghistory. And now let's get back to that D-bar, which I kind of think sounds like a childish insult, you D-bar. So once you have all of your ingredients ready, you're going to need to get a mold. I got this one off of eBay. As you can see, it's already been used by me. I got this off of eBay, but I've seen others online. This one is for the 4-ounce bar, which was the original standard. It's cut into 6 pieces. Later on, they also made a 2 and then 1-ounce bar, but the 4-ounce bar was the standard. Then for melting all of the chocolate and ingredients, you're going to want to use a double boiler, or if you don't have that, a heat-proof bowl over some boiling water.
No sponsor block add-on.
Just put it right onto the stove, it's probably going to burn. So add the chocolate and the cacao fat to the upper pot of the double boiler, and then bring the bottom pot to a rolling boil and set the top pot on. In a couple of minutes, the chocolate and fat should melt together. Then you can add the sugar and stir it in to let it melt. You want to get this as smooth as possible because from here on out, nothing we add is going to help this texture at all. Next up is the powdered milk. I guess the idea here is to kind of make milk chocolate, but the fact that it is powdered and we're not rehydrating it makes it so it is not going to become fully rehydrated, and so really you're lucky if it's going to even mix with the other ingredients. This is
I don't watch enough of these like type of videos. Actually, I guess I watch enough of tasting history, but like a lot of these other like video essay shit, I don't really watch that much. In fact, I actively hate a lot of them. Like, hold on a second. Let me see if I can show you guys how much I fucking hate these like recently there's been like a huge uptick in these like fucking like AI slop like fucking AI slop fucking like stick figure explainer videos, and it pisses me off to no fucking end. And like no one's talking about it either, or at least I like don't see anybody talking about it. Like hold on a second. Like this shit pisses me off. Like you watch it, it's all just like this fucking like monotone guy with like fucking AI like just AI slideshow of fucking like stick figures, and it's just so fucking annoying. Fucking don't ever recommend this channel again. God, I fucking hate. Anyway. I see that slop often just because I like watch a lot of like these like I guess like historical and like science stuff.
To kind of grain.
I also try to block like literally every single like English VTuber I see on my feed. I don't care to watch VTuber streams, and I don't care to watch like clips. Like especially like, oh god, I fucking hate clip channels. They're so fucking cringe.
And it is only going to get worse when we add the next ingredient, the oat flour. Of all the ingredients, this is probably the one that has the most unpleasant effect on both flavor and texture. But at least according to one Marine in the South Pacific, it wasn't that bad. They were chocolate, and they had quite a bit of oatmeal in them. But they were all right. They were good. And I think that rather tepid response is exactly what Captain Logan was going for. Good enough to eat, but only good enough to eat. Now after the oat flour, the only other things we're adding are the vanillin and the thiamine hydrochloride, neither of which is really large enough to affect the texture. Also, I've never used this crystallized vanillin, sometimes called vanillin. Either one is correct. I'm not sure exactly how much regular vanilla to use in comparison with this, but I'm thinking maybe a teaspoon? I don't know. Once everything is added, keep stirring for about 2 minutes just to make sure everything is well incorporated, then take it off the heat and get your mold ready. And this is when I wish I had bought 4 of these molds, because doing them one at a time is going to take a very, very long time. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. The thing is, when the Hershey company started making these, they were a little taken aback as well because they were used to pouring chocolate into molds, but this is not really pourable, it's more of paste. And so when the first major order of 90,000 bars came in 1937, they had to pack every single mold by hand. And so that's what I'm doing. So take a spatula and fill up the mold and level it off, and then you have to wait for the chocolate to cool.
It looks really
and
gross,
FYI,
by the way.
It takes about 8 hours for the chocolate to cool into a hardened mass.
Yeah,
so
that I
we're
don't
gonna be
like
here
the way
all
you say
day
vanilla.
if
Like,
we don't put it into the fridge.
it's not
so I ended
the
up putting it in the
vanilla
fridge.
plant.
It
Like, come
still
on,
took about
let's
an
be
hour
fucking
to
real
harden
here.
up. And while the chocolate cools, make sure
It's not
you are
the
subscribed
vanilla.
to Tasty History and hit the
I like
notification bell
what kind of
because
what,
then you'll get
what kind of ice cream flavor you
notifications
like?
as
Oh
I
yeah,
release
you know, like
the
a
rest
chocolate,
of
but
this series,
sometimes
because this is actually the
enjoy a
first
bit of
video
vanilla.
in a series on the rations of World War II. Not civilian, I have done those, but military rations, and not just of the US. I'm going to do Britain and Germany and the USSR and Japan, maybe Australia, whoever I can find. I'm gonna do a video on their rations. But we're gonna start with the D ration, and we will hopefully answer the question of exactly why this bar was so notorious. After months of development and weeks of production, Captain Logan's new Logan bar was ready for distribution, and in 1937 and 38, it was sent out to some of the more extreme climates of the world, to U.S. soldiers in the Philippines and Panama, Hawaii, and even on the Texas border. Eventually, some boxes even accompanied Admiral Richard E. Byrd on his third expedition to Antarctica. And the trials were an absolute success. The Logan bar did not melt. They kept people from starving during starvation exercises.
And take a shower
while
during
nobody
that ad
was
break.
complaining, the taste was not good enough that anyone felt the need to eat it before they were supposed to. And with this success, on November 9th, 1938, the U.S. Army adopted the Logan bar as the primary emergency ration, and a year later it was designated as the U.S. Army Field Ration D. Chocolate goes to war in D ration. D ration consists of 3 4-ounce bars of concentrated chocolate. Its primary purpose is to give sustenance to the armed forces in times of extreme duress, stress, and when out of touch with bases of supply for short periods of time. It is also planned to give troops extra energy when engaged in continuous combat, and regular eating time is not permitted. At first, the bars were wrapped in aluminum foil, but very quickly after the war started, aluminum became scarce. There was also worry that, just like in World War I, the different combatants would begin using mustard gas and chlorine gas. And so to protect the ration from contamination, they switched to a waterproof cellophane wrapper. Then the chocolate was stored in waxed cardboard boxes on which was printed the ingredients, the calories, 600 per bar, and the instructions on how they should be consumed. To be eaten slowly in about a half hour. Though to hear one soldier tell of it,
soldiers are straight up
lucky
used as guinea
to be
pigs
able
for
to eat this in a half an hour.
Yeah,
there's no way you could eat it in less
we
than
do
a
that
half an
nowadays.
hour, unless it was melted.
Except now it's like now it's
but
just
we
brown
were
soldiers
cold out
across
there,
the
winter cold, and you had
ocean,
a D-bar.
so we don't think about it
as hard
as
as
much.
a rock, and you try to chew something, you can't. You can put it in your mouth and jaw on it a little bit and get a little bit of flavor.
Or
but
better,
that's
or
about it.
even
Tough,
worse, civilians.
But it made you respect good home meals. Another, seemingly more appetizing way of ingesting the stuff was also printed on the box, saying can be dissolved by crumbling into a cup of boiling water if desired as a beverage. And that's how William Abel consumed it when he was in the European theater. In our rations, one of the bars of candy was hard chocolate, and what we would do, we would take our knife and shave it off into a canteen cup, put water in it, and it made the best hot chocolate you ever tasted. So we had that just about every day. And by the time the U.S. actually entered the war, the Hershey Company had figured out a way to automate molding these chocolates so that they were able to make 100,000 units per day. And by the end of the war, they were making 24 million per week. But they were not the only ones making them. Other chocolate companies came in and produced the same bar with slight variations to the recipe. One variation was in its size, because while it began as a 4-ounce bar, 2-ounce bars were also made, and those would be included as part of the Kei ration. These were collections of preserved foods meant for emergencies, things like canned processed meat, raisins, peanut butter, pemmican,
Steve MRE
chewing gum,
1998
bouillon powder,
or 1998
along with some candy,
info
either hard candy or the 2-ounce D ration.
Coming in with the nice.
As the war went on, they continued to make
get this out on a
adjustments
tray.
to the original D ration, like if you were in the Pacific Theater, then you might get the tropical version, which did not include oat flour and was said to be quite a bit tastier than the standard D ration. The issue with these was that they were more subject to blooming. That's that kind of white stuff that gets on the outside of Easter candy from last year, and the soldiers would think that it was mold, and so they kept throwing it out. So they would have to put onto the package, storage conditions may cause the surface of the bar to whiten. This does not affect the eating quality. These tastier bars remained relatively rare until very close to the end of the war, so for most soldiers they had to rely on the D-bar to sate their sweet tooth, and even then, it didn't really work. You never got enough sugar. They gave you something called a D-bar. You were supposed to save that for when you ran out of food. It was chocolate, but it was a special kind of chocolate that they neutered so that it wasn't sweet. It was like eating wax. One soldier named Robert W. Miller hated these bars so much that even after the war, he said that they put him off chocolate for life. You had a Class A ration, Class B, Class C, which was emergency ration, then Class D was emergency ration, which was a chocolate bar made out of tropical chocolate. You couldn't melt it. In order to eat it, you had to whittle it, like that. God, it was awful. It was like a rock. I could have thrown it at the enemy and killed them with it. And I lived off that for a while, I come back, I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat chocolate. Absolutely heartbreaking. But while many complained about the D ration, others loved it because it kept them alive. And that was the whole point of the D ration, to give you something to eat when there were absolutely no alternatives. Like one soldier said that during the Battle of the Bulge, they were pinned down for 3 days and survived off just a little bit of cheese and an emergency chocolate bar. One of the most famous survival stories of the war, one that was actually turned into a movie, features the D ration, but it never got to live up to its full potential. See, in May 1943, Louis Zamperini's bomber experienced mechanical issues and crashed into the ocean 850 miles south of Oahu. Only 3 of the 11 crews survived the crash, but they were able to climb aboard 2 inflatable rafts. As for provisions, between the 2 rafts, we had 6 bars of chocolate and 8 half-pint tins of water. Designed as survival food, the chocolate bars were big, divided into 6 sections. He kind of took charge and portioned out the chocolate so that each of them would get a little bit each day, and it would last for an entire week. That night, they all go to sleep, and they wake up the next morning excited to have a breakfast of this chocolate. But it's gone. All of it is gone. And that is because one of the 3 men, McNamara, ate all 6 bars during the night. Shockingly, they did not just throw him overboard that very moment, but that's because they expected to be rescued in just a few days. Unfortunately, that is not what happened. It took 47 days. 47 days of living off of rainwater and eating 2 albatrosses that they caught and some fish that they caught using one of the albatrosses as bait. 47 days of typhoons, constant shark attacks, almost dying from starvation, and even being strafed by a Japanese fighter. On day 33, McNamara, who had eaten all of the chocolate, actually died, and it was only on day 47 that the other 2 landed in the Marshall Islands, only to be immediately captured by the Japanese. They were then sent to a POW camp, which was almost as bad as being on the raft. And speaking of POW camps, that's actually another place where
I go and
people
retrieve
can
the
get
chocolate.
D ration. Mostly it was
go
in
into
Europe,
his dead
the
body.
German POW camps. And while in one of those camps, Francis Flynn recalled that in the prison camp we got the equivalent of a small bowl of cabbage soup or potato soup once a day.
All right, ads time. Ads time on Twitch side. I'm gonna take a quick shower. Oh, god damn it. Did I miss like the entire... I missed the entire ads break. God damn. Alright, whatever. I guess I'll just finish stream. I'll like do another 30 minutes of work and then I'll just go shower afterwards. I indeed missed the whole ad break. That's crazy. I was focused on drawing. Alright, well, you missed the story of the guy surviving and whatever.
But we used to get Red Cross parcels.
They got caught by the
Japanese
once a month.
month.
The guy who ate the chocolate also
bar,
died
powdered
first,
milk,
so
crackers, cigarettes.
it's kind of like, you know,
we would
karma,
take
I
the
guess.
chocolate bar, cut that up, and put that in with the powdered milk, and then take some of the powdered milk that we had left, and we'd make a little whipped cream out of it, and we'd put that over the top, and it was delicious. Another prisoner recalled escaping during a forced march from one of the German POW camps with another prisoner. And the only food that they had with them was one of these D-bars. And so after a few days of starving, one of them sees some snails in like a gutter and decides, we have to eat, so let's eat these snails. So they did, but they were so grossed out they could not keep them down. So they said, okay, we can do this with the help of the D-bar. Let's just take a little bit of the chocolate and then pop that thing. We'll have a chocolate-covered snail. So I suppose the answer to just how bad the D-ration really was kind of depends on the situation that you're eating it in. If you got access to other food, then yeah, it's probably not great. But if you're starving and there's nothing else to eat, then it is probably the best thing that you can possibly imagine. And that's the whole point of it, to only eat when you are starving. Unfortunately, I just had lunch about 2 hours ago, so I'm not starving, so I'm not sure what I'm going to think of this World War II D-ration. So once the chocolate bar is firmed up, you can unmold it, and it is ready to eat. And here we are, the D-ration of World War II. So I don't really know the best way to eat this, at least to start. I'm going to try to break it off. You know, it is perforated, kind of. Okay. So that's not, it is hard, but it's not as hard as I was worried it would be. So it's very, you can see, it's already very grainy on the inside. Let's give it a taste.
It looks like a protein bar. Like, not like actual chocolate, but like protein, you know?
It's not as bad as I thought it would be. I would want it to be a little sweeter, yes.
Like, if I was imagining a protein bar, I imagine this would taste better than a protein bar.
There's a good amount of sugar in there. What I don't love is the texture. It's very sandy, but not like...
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine looking at that.
Not horribly so. It's just like, there's something off about it. The thing is, I just made these. And I bet that if I let it sit there for months, it might get harder and more unpalatable. So maybe I'll keep one for half a year or so and then try it again. But it's not terrible. And this is what they were supposed to have used. Now maybe, like I said, there were different companies making these, and they made them to different specifications. They all got the same specifications, but they did not make them the same. If you look at actual pictures from the time, you can tell that they are not all the same. And some of them are almost like, they're so dark brown, they're almost black, which means there's probably very little, if any, sugar in there. And so those are going to be really bitter, almost like eating just, you know, pure cocoa powder, which is terrible. But what I want to do is I want to break some of this up and try to make some hot chocolate. So I'll use a knife to just kind of crack some of this up and put it into a cup and pour some boiling water over it.
Chocolate
and
sandy,
voila.
yeah.
This is not a period-appropriate R2-D2 mug, but
that does kind of look like hot
give it a
chocolate. Like you were really desperate.
It's actually really good.
Oh, really? Huh.
More water to chocolate. I use too much water, so it's kind of watery. But I could see that this would actually be really good because you lose the texture of the graininess. It just tastes like hot chocolate. I don't know. You know, the thing is, if you look through the quotes from the time of people talking about it, they're not all bad. Some people are like, yeah, it was chocolate, it was fine. And what's interesting is my grandpa had some of these, and he told me stories growing up about, at the end of the war, he was going through Germany, I want to say into Frankfurt, and he would hand out these chocolates because he didn't smoke. So they would all get cigarettes in their packs and everything, and he would trade them away for chocolate. Not for himself, but so he could give them to the little kids, the little German kids, and I think Belgian kids at one point. And he said they absolutely loved it because, again, it's all about your situation. Is it as good as Belgian chocolate or German chocolate today? Heck no. But when you're starving, when your entire country has been decimated and you're lucky to get a potato, then some mediocre chocolate is going to taste mighty fine. Yeah, I used to love those stories that he told me. He would call them little Frauleins, but in his accent, little Frauleins. Anyway, yeah, that's the D-bar, the D-ration. I've wanted to make it for a long time. I am going to be doing more rations. Whether I'm actually making the rations or cooking with the rations or making something that is ration adjacent, the history that I'm going to be talking about is about the rations and about just the cooking.
Yeah, it does look like kind of like hot powder.
The different soldiers and the different militaries were eating, because they were very different. And so, yeah, over the next year, 2 years,
they use like a bunch of like oat stuff, and I feel like that when that gets mixed into like water, it would actually be like pretty good.
A couple years as I make my
or
way
like
through
pretty
these
thickening,
videos,
right?
And I will see you next time on Tasting History.
I wonder if nowadays they would like if there's enough sugar in it to like be food. I wonder if they would like put like artificial sweeteners to it to make it sweeter, but like also like not so appealing sweet. You know what I mean? All right, what else do we got in here? I've got God, fucking Stick Explains. Fuck off, brother. Oh my god, I hate these stupid ass channels. Holy fuck. There's so many of these AI bullshits. Alright, is there anything that's not like, JJ McCullough or fucking, politics or fucking, tasting history? Damn, is that all I fucking have on my feed? That's crazy. Alright, I guess this is the recommended from the let's look at the For You. The Ninja Diet, 365 views. I also hate getting recommended like obvious AI fucking slop videos. Every DreamWorks villain ranked. Don't recommend that channel ever again. Fucking hate that shit. Speedrunning the full story of OSRS. Don't ever recommend that shit to me ever again. Fucking cringe as fuck. Rick and Morty feels better now. I'm not gonna say don't ever recommend that, but don't fucking... I don't want to see that. The Wonder of Wales... The Wonder of Wales for Sleep documentary, no AI used. Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna click on something that you're just outright advertising as for sleep. Like, I'm not interested in that. Dune Part 3 official. Oh my god, there's nothing to watch, bro. Should just watch anime. But then I can't show that on screen either. Alright, hold on. What do we got? Oh, Minute Earth is also a really good series. Alright, let's look at
When I was working as a microbiologist,
the videos are too short
like
though.
I would mix a powder called nutrient agar with water in a beaker and then chuck it into a fancy oven to make it sterile. I would then pour the warm liquid into little containers called Petri dishes, where the liquid would cool and solidify into jello. And once that was done, I would do it all over again. And again. And again. Like 100 times a day. That's what I spent most of my time doing. And that's because Petri dishes are amazing. They're easy to prepare, they stack nicely, and the jello inside them provides the perfect nutrient-filled habitat for well-studied bacteria like E. coli to grow on top of. Petri dishes are basically the perfect research tool. But as great as they are, they have a huge drawback. Only a tiny percentage of bacterial species will grow on the jello. The other 98% of them simply refuse to. Hi, I'm Lisa, and this is Minute Earth. E. coli
Minute
are
Earth?
easy to
Oh my
please.
god, I fucking
I would
hate
know.
accents
I've
so
grown
much
literally
sometimes.
billions of them. In the human gut, they live on warm, smooth surfaces with easy to access nutrients. In the lab, Petri dishes can mimic that lifestyle pretty well. But while it's easy to think of bacteria as all really similar, in reality, they are a super diverse group of organisms with incredibly different lifestyles. I mean, consider animals for a second. You wouldn't build an aquarium, throw a monkey in it, and be surprised that it isn't
Dylan.
happy.
Oh, I do like Dylan Hollis.
An
He's
aquarium is just
pretty
too
funny.
different from a monkey's natural habitat. Similarly, most types of bacteria cannot
can
grow
watch a
a
Dylan
nutritional
Hollis,
jello in a petri dish because it's
video.
just too
I've been meaning to
different
watch
from their
one of
natural
the
environment.
ones, but
For example, these bacteria grow
I
in
like his
marine
videos
sediment
more
where
than
the
his
bottom
shorts.
layer
His
has
shorts
sulfur,
are like a
but
little
no
bit
oxygen, and the top layer has oxygen but no
spaz for me, if
sulfur.
that
So
makes
its
any
food is
sense.
at the bottom and its
I mean, I
air
guess
is at
that's
the
just
top.
like the
These
audience
bacteria
for
form a
fucking shorts,
vertical
but-
Congo line where the top one breathes and the bottom one eats. Then they exchange energy in the form of literal electricity. The flat, horizontal surface of petri dish jello doesn't allow them to do the things they need to survive. Some bacteria, like Vibrio fischeri, are really good friends with other organisms. They grow in the light-producing organs of the bobtail squid. It's so cute! The luminescent bacteria help the squid camouflage itself. If you want to study these friendships in the lab, you'll have to actually build an aquarium full of squid to grow together with these bacteria. And some bacteria are parasites that will only grow within living animal cells, but not in a friendly way. This is the case for the bacteria that causes syphilis. Putting a bacteria on a plate of jello is like feeding them candy bars, which does work for some species, but other species, like syphilis, are pickier. They need a constant supply of fresh nutrients like you can only get inside a host cell. And some bacteria grow in environments that we can't replicate because we still don't know enough about them. All organisms need something from their environment, like how the bacteria that live in thermal vents need a ton of heat, while others need high amounts of salt, and still others need blood. These things aren't difficult to provide in petri dishes, but the key is knowing what the little bugs need, which can create a catch-22 situation. We can't figure out what it is that the bacteria specifically needs to grow because we can't study it, because we simply don't know how to grow it. Because of all these difficulties, the vast majority of what we know about bacteria comes from the
Learn the
easy-to-use
fucking language you
E. coli
speak.
that thrive in petri dishes,
I mean, I shouldn't be
which
saying
have
that,
been a huge
but,
boon to
like,
microbial science. But at the same time, my mind
It's-
boggles at the thought of all
There's,
the species we
there's, like,
don't
a
know
certain
about
level
simply
of-
because
there's
they
a certain
don't grow
level
in
of,
petri
like,
dishes. But lab
pronunciation
techniques
that I just
evolve,
feel like
and
you're
we are
not
now
actually
learning more
trying.
about the world of
Like,
bacteria by
minute
bringing
when,
the lab
like,
outside, or by bringing
that
some
is
of the
a
outside
word
world inside.
that is a different word
One
than
day,
minute.
petri dishes might even become
I
obsolete.
feel like they're just not
but
trying.
I will still love them. I mean, look at this jello. It's alive. We made this video in collaboration with the
Beef desserts. Oh, that show is nasty. Alright, 4 burning questions. I don't care about that. I fucking hate that kind of shit, bro. Peanut butter bread, mystery desserts, food of the god. I watched this one. Alright, let's try the 1912 potato cake.
Gentles and ladymen, hello! I'm B. Dylan Hollis, and today we're going to be speaking about the TikTok famous chocolate potato cake from 1912. In March of this year, I uploaded this TikTok about said chocolate potato cake, and it's seemingly gone viral, which blows my mind like nothing else. As of filming, it's got over 20 million views. And I figured now that I'm on YouTube and we're not restricted by 60 seconds, and I no longer need to yell constantly, we can take the time to speak about the recipe and the cake itself. Now, folks often ask me where I get my recipes from, and the fact of the matter is that I just collect vintage things, and cookbooks are one of those things. This is one of my favorite from the 40s, for example. It's called Recipes for Good Eating by the Crisco Corporation with the tagline, "It's digestible." So I needn't make these things up. Recipes in old print are just about as horrible and horrific as your imagination will let you believe they can be. So that's really all I need, and I find them from antique stores. Every now and then I'll bring them in from eBay. But regarding the chocolate potato cake, I sourced this recipe from a 1912 cookbook. I have 2 iterations of this here cookbook. One stays in the kitchen, and one is my good version, and that good version is of a new book of cookery from Fanny Merritt Farmer, which I find quite funny because where I'm from, Fanny is Fanny is quite a funny word, quite a rude word, which was the reason why I picked it up to begin with, because I'm an overgrown child.
Crisco.
Now,
Yeah. I think Crisco is actually very versatile. I've used Crisco before.
Potato cake, but the astute among you will instantly see that it does not say chocolate potato cake. It says caramel potato cake, and you'd of course be correct. But the funny thing is, it's a typo. At the end of the recipe's instructions, you'll see that it says remove from pan and cover with fudge frosting. And there isn't any caramel to speak of in the recipe, the ingredients, or the instructions. It's all chocolate. And that fudge frosting on page 350 is indeed there, and the caramel frosting is there on page 351. So instead of naming it caramel potato cake, I took the liberty to sort of correct the typo. It of course begins with the hallmark ingredient of the potato, calling for half a cup of hot riced potatoes. Doesn't tell you what type of potato to use. I use the russet. And one medium russet comes out to roughly half a cup. And if you have a ricer, use it. I just use a masher. Previous recipes in this book explicitly state when to peel the potato. In the absence of that, I leave the skins on, as I said in the TikTok. So the only thing there is that you just need to make sure it's really, really clean. So we're going to begin by chopping this up in a medium dice and just throwing it right into
Concio is
water
not
without
exactly an
anything.
edible
Now, if it wasn't
item as
already
far as I'm
obvious,
concerned,
not a
being
cook,
waste product
I'm not
of the
a
industrial
baker.
process.
I'm a college
I
student
mean,
who happened to stumbled into some TikTok fame by doing old quirky recipes, and I never expected
like just because it's like an industrial like byproduct, I don't necessarily think it's inedible, because like Vegemite's an industrial byproduct too.
My kitchen is set up luckily for vertical videos, so I only bring this up because on YouTube there's so many people who are so good at cooking, using fancy cameras and all of that stuff.
And then it being carcinogen, I don't know, there's so many things that are like that can be considered carcinogens too. So I mean I've seen like the I've seen those studies, but I don't think it's like definitive enough to like say
you
that
see
it
a lot
is.
of recipes say don't over mix your batter, and that's true, but not for this stage. You can't overdo this at all. Well, I suppose you can if you mix for so long that you melt the bloody thing. Now, for clarity's sake, whipping the butter first and then gradually adding the sugar, as the recipe says, is best practice. The way I did it, by just adding all the sugar in at once, it's a lot less efficient. It takes a lot longer for me to cream the butter. As a side effect, the potatoes are almost done, but what you're looking for here is a pale white, creamy, fluffy texture to your butter. It should have increased in volume. This took me about 13 minutes. It will take you a lot less time if you use a stand mixer, but at which point we can begin adding the eggies. These are our 2 eggs, which have already been beaten, which we're gonna add to this creamed butter sugar mixture very gradually. We now have our butter, sugar, and eggs incorporated. Okay, so in go our potatoes to a bowl to mash up. Of course, if you have a ricer, you can go ahead and use a ricer. We're gonna just mash these up loosely, not too much. A ricer is good, and mashing these up a lot without skins especially is good if you really like a homogeneous cake. I'm more one for the texture here, and texture plays a part later on.
I think people who like cook with like rings and watches and stuff are like kind of crazy. Like,
so as to not
I don't know, like I want my hands bare. Oh, see, like exactly, like exactly like for that reason. Like I want my hands bare, so if that shit kind of happens, like I don't like dirty all of my like. I don't wear any of those accessories, and like my watch I never wear, but like, you know, like why? Like I guess it's the only like piece that you're showing, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Now the spice situation to be added to this mixture calls for cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg. I used a ½ teaspoon of each, as the recipe says. The only thing is that cloves will significantly date this cake, date this dish. A ½ teaspoon of ground cloves is quite a significant, strong flavor and taste, especially
artificial sweetener. I die for that. I have ride and die for that shit, bro.
So that's just something to watch out for. That could be a substitution, is you could remove the cloves and just add a full teaspoon of cinnamon, or maybe even a bit more. And people might be mad that I don't say cinnamon. All right, that is the last of our spices. We're just gonna mix this mixture up a little bit. Use a whisk or use a fork. Then we add this mixture into our batter. Now this is the fun part. Unlike a lot of recipes which call for powdered cocoa or melted chocolate, this recipe explicitly calls for half cup of grated chocolate. I'm here just using the 56% cacao bar, also known as semi-sweet, the Baker's brand. I'm just popping it in here so I can best gauge half a cup. But I think it really offers some cool textural differences to the batter, to the cake, that really stands out and sets it apart and makes it really good in my opinion. And you'll see, when it comes out of the oven, it does not resemble any other chocolate cake. It's not brown or dark. Instead, it kind of elicits the image of banana bread. I'm gonna call it there. That's about half cup. That's about left in the full bar remaining. Don't grate this down too much or else you'll have some.
I don't do artificial because I don't like the taste.
Go ahead and eat this. With this done,
they taste like poison. You know what poison tastes like? I don't know, man. Like, I enjoy it because it's like, I really like Dr. Pepper, and Dr. Pepper has enough like flavoring in it, like outside of it being sugar, that like diet kind of still reminds me enough of Dr. Pepper without having to deal with the more immediate consequences of getting like fat and diabetes.
I did pop these in my TikTok video. I just didn't mention it. You know, when we only have 60 seconds, you can only fit so much in. I'm going to be turning this into a buttered and floured 8-inch square. But you can use whatever you want so long as it's equivalent. Just level this.
Have you guys had potato bread? I fucking love that shit. I feel like if anybody who's like who knows like what potato bread is shouldn't be like too surprised at like potato cake. It's just using potato as a
50 minutes in my
it's just using potato as like a wheat base.
And that's even at an altitude of 7,200 feet here in Wyoming. The recipe says 55 minutes. I suggest that you gauge
I thought Dylan was from like the Christmas Islands or some shit, not Wyoming. What the hell?
Good. Okay, whilst that cools, we're gonna move on to the fudge frosting, which is brilliantly simple and full of flavor for the small amount of ingredients it has. In this small saucepan, we've got already a 1/4 cup of milk, to which we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter. Ooh. I'm just using salted because salt is good when you have a lot of sweet stuff. And that is on the back of a whole cup of sugar. And I'm not going to spill anything, Mr. Hollis, am I? No.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I also didn't really enjoy the aftertaste. But, like, honestly, now I don't really taste it much at all. 1 square
of unsweetened chocolate. Now, that doesn't mean anything because I don't know how big Miss Fanny Farmer's chocolate squares were. That sounds quite rude. So we're just going to use the remainder of the full 56% cacao bar that we utilized for the shavings. So it comes out to about this much. That just goes right on there. Again, this is the chocolate that I'm using. Then you just pop this on the range and let things boil for about 15 minutes, after which you take it off and add in your vanilla. Now, the recipe dictates to add things sequentially and let things like the butter come to temperature first before adding the remaining ingredients. I've made this recipe now about 5 times and I've not noticed any difference between doing it that way versus all together, but do as you wish. Okay, our frosting has been off the heat now for a bit. We're gonna add some vanilla and whisk it in the pot for a little while. I think I want it a bit thicker. Oh boy. I don't think I want it any thicker than that because I like to pour it on. Yes. Now you could let this cool down more, or you could cut into it while it's still warm. Now you can really see how unique a texture this cake has. It almost looks like banana bread, and that's from the unmelted chocolate and the potato skins. You know, not only is this the best thing I've baked on TikTok, it's one of the best things I've baked ever. Perhaps the best. And no, I do not say that lightly. This is fantastic, and I highly suggest you try it. Anyway, before I eat this whole thing, let me know if you guys enjoyed this. Like I say, I'm a TikToker, I am not a YouTuber. So let me know if you want to see more of these investigations into my past recipes, the good ones. I'm new to this. I'm used to you being this way, and for everything being quick cut, and me shouting constantly. But elsewise, hope you guys have a good day.
Oh, this is his first video on YouTube. That's crazy. Been conditioned into not hating it. I mean, I never hated it in the first place. So like, I think it was easier to like, it was easier to like get used to that aftertaste. So, yeah, I don't know. I definitely would be at least like 20 pounds heavier now if I continued only drinking non-diet Dr. Pepper. Cause like I go through maybe like 60, 70 cans of diet Dr. Pepper a month. Yeah. So if I do that with like soda, like it'd be fucking over. You're fat from the sodas you drink. Maybe you should try switching to the diet, man. I'm just saying. Anyway, all right, I got some stuff done. It's I have to wake up early tomorrow. I have to like get some shit done before classes, and I have only classes tomorrow. Anyway, let's see. Do I stream tomorrow? I stream tomorrow. 次の配信は明日は何するかわかんないけれど。多分 maybe I'll do some exploring Vampirium, like RuneScape, but like checking out like the Maggot King boss, checking out the other things that apparently you can do there. I had no idea. We'll see. Diet Mountain Dew tastes like ass. Oh my god, Diet Mountain Dew does taste like ass. I genuinely think Diet Mountain Dew is the worst diet version of itself. Like, even worse than Diet Coke. And Diet Coke is, like, kind of, like, not even Coke. So, yeah. Mountain Dew's kind of rip if that's your favorite soda. Alright. Anyway. Oh, actually, Diet Baja Blast is pretty good, but you can't really get that, like, easily. Anyway. Nasu, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. We'll explore some Vampirium. 次配信はなんかルーンスケープの新しいのクエスト終わると、そして終わったからなんか新しいの地域のヴァンピリアムというの地域探検しよう。はい、おつなす。I'll see you all tomorrow.